Oh, let me fix that. That's got to get fixed. Why in the world did that flip back around? Hang on. That is awful. Hang on. That is awful. There we go.
There we go.
Clicked on the wrong button. There we go. We're off to a great start already. Well, welcome in everybody. This is They Both Suck podcast. We have Alex. Actually, I didn't ask you backstage. Do you prefer Alex or Alexander?
Either one's fine.
Either one? Okay. We're going to go with Alex because that one just flows better
There
for
you
me.
go.
Got Alex Duncan with us. He's running for U.S. Senate from Texas. And we are coming up on the primary coming up in this spring. And we got some questions and some conversations to have around this. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Alex. Who are you?
Yeah, so I'm Alex Duncan. I'm 35 years old. I was born and raised unfortunately, in California. And I served as a police officer out there for 13 years. Grew up in a very patriotic, conservative family. You know, both of my grandpas served in the Navy and were war veterans. My dad was a police officer for 34 years, followed in his footsteps. And funny thing is, I had no interest in law enforcement whatsoever growing up. I despised authority. I was like, I'm not going to do this. And then when I was getting towards the end of college, he's like, you need to find a job because, you know, of course, I got a degree, which does nothing. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, you know what, I'll check this out. I'll apply. And day after I graduated from college, started the police academy and did that for 13 years. And it was great. I loved it. But working in California is just terrible. And seeing all these leftist policies and how they infringe on our God-given constitutional rights, I just knew we needed a change. And especially having two young kids, we were like, hey, we got to get out. We cannot raise our kids here. And Texas was like the first choice that came to mind because at the time we thought, hey, Texas represents freedom. They represent, you know, the nuclear American, you know, ideal of a family. They still heavily believe in the freedoms and, you know, and promoting God and religion. So it's like no brainer. Let's head over. And it was the best move we could have ever made. We love it here. The greatest, friendliest people ever. But shortly after being here, I just saw, hey, the left is at work. They're trying to take this state because I truly believe if Texas is the last, like, true conservative stronghold, and if you take that, it's America's done for. And knowing that John Cornyn is one of the senators representing us, who he's basically just a Democrat, I said, how is this guy representing Texas when he clearly doesn't vote according to the will of his constituents? And you know, a long time ago, someone once told me, he's like, you can't complain about things unless you're willing to make the change yourself. So I've always taken that to heart. And I said, well, you know, I have nothing to lose. I just want to serve for the right reasons. I want to take I've always had a heart for service, you know, being a police officer. So I said, well, why not? You know, if it's God's will, it will happen. So let's see where this goes.
That's awesome, man. That's a great story. And first of all, thank you for your service as being a police officer, especially in this era of what we're dealing with. You came in at a very young age and took it on probably at one of the worst times to try to be a police officer. And
right,
you don't really have the support we had 20, 30 years ago.
Right. It's especially in California, it's a mess. I mean, I started my career in 2012 and it was pretty good. It was still a lot of respect for the police out there. And then once 2020 hit, it went downhill. We had, you know, legislation being passed coming after police officers for everything. So police officers are scared to do their job out there. Crime is just through the roof. It was just a mess.
Yeah, I bet. And I thought I read it was a Beverly Hills where you were at in California.
Yes, sir.
So you were the Beverly Hills cop. Is that what?
That's right.
That's actually pretty cool. That movie is hilarious. I enjoyed watching it several times growing up. I really liked it. So running for the Senate and you going over to Texas, like Texas with Cronin, we can go on all day with all of his flaws and who he is. Like one of my biggest things with him is being running, what is it, his fifth term now, or is he going on six? I think
I
it's
think this will be a 6. He's been in since
term. Yeah,
2002, so a long time.
it's a long time for a politician, a really long time.
Right.
And I every time I hear of a term like that, that's how many years that consecutively they have been in a seat. Like, I'm open for conversations. Like, if you're changing seats and you're moving around and doing different things, then sure, consecutive time, we could have a conversation. But when you're holding one seat for that long, it's really bad. And
Right.
here in Utah, we had Orrin Hatch do that when I was getting into politics in the early 2000s. When he was running, well, he got out of politics in early 2000s, but when he was running, his when he was going against his opponent to unseat them, they were in that person was in their seat for 18 years. And then what did he say when a politician was in their seat for 18 years in his campaign speech? Is someone's at home. Like, they're not really serving the people. They're just at home. How do
Right.
you feel about Cronin being in office that long?
I think it's way too long. I've always been a huge proponent of term limits because as we see, you just being in there that long, you get corrupted. It's all about money. You know, every time after they get reelected, what are they working on? Fundraising, getting more
Mhm.
money. And that's all they care about at the end of the day. And I strongly believe if we had term limits, we wouldn't see the issues we're currently seeing because
Yeah.
you'd be in there for a set time and you're there for a specific reason to get your job done. And that's it. You're not having to worry about money every single year and trying to just get reelected. So it's just a mess. It's another thing that needs to be cleaned up, and that's why I would just love to see term limits be
Yeah.
implemented. But again, who has to vote on that? Congress, and they're never going to vote against themselves when it's going to hurt their bottom line.
Yeah, it's always comical when we have to look to Congress to make a decision, and you're looking at Congress, and they're like, "We're gonna vote on giving us ourselves a raise," and it's like, who's gonna say no to that? Like, really?
Right,
Like,
right,
no, that should actually be on the ballot to let the citizens decide on if we want to pay more to you. Like, that's what I how I feel about it.
right.
Well, as we talked a little bit backstage, like one of your biggest campaigns, things with campaign that you're running on is everything with like Islam and the whole community that they're trying to build. What is it, just outside Plano, Texas?
Right.
And I believe that got shut down recently, if I recall correctly. But is
So
that your biggest thing that you're running on this time?
yeah, so that's just fake news about it being shut down. What happened is they didn't have the correct building permits. So the government wanted to come out and say, "Hey, we shut it down." Well, you didn't shut it down. You just saw that they didn't have the correct permits. They're filing that as we speak. It's going to get approved. Now they're just trying to do the workaround. It's essentially what they wanted built was a military compound because most mosques are built kind of as a essentially a military compound. So they have one road access to get in and out of it, so the city council is trying to work on changing regulations where you need multiple entrances and exits. So it's still in the works. It's still going to go through. And the other thing that came out recently, Governor Abbott wanted to say, "Hey, I ban Sharia law." Well, the bill that was put forward and that they approved, it doesn't mention Sharia at all. It's basically just the Fair Housing Act now in legislation in Texas. So it didn't change anything. It's still saying you can't discriminate with housing. But the problem is with these communities, there's an organization called NATE, the North American Islamic Trust, and they offer 0% mortgages to Muslims. So easily they could buy up all these lots. Most of them are already sold, and that's how they're purchasing up all this land, all these homes, because they get these 0% mortgages from this trust.
That's insane. Imagine if we gave 0% mortgages to Americans. Like, I'm not a big proponent of that, but at least we would be doing something for our people. But what we're doing this for anybody else outside of our country, like in general.
Right.
It I find it insane. I would like us to really get away with it. Get away from taking care of other countries and other people before we do Americans, because there's enough Americans, veterans, many people that need help before we can really start taking care of others.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's why I'm against foreign aid. I think we need to just cancel all foreign aid right now. It's a one thing to talk about helping other countries once our national debt is at zero, but when
Mhm,
we're pouring millions of our tax dollars, billions of our tax dollars to other countries, which a lot of them hate us,
mhm.
but we're still funding them, It's like, what are we doing? Like you said, we need to take care of our veterans. We need to take care of the people on our streets, the hardworking Americans that could barely, afford to survive right now,
Mhm.
instead of shipping all of our money outside of here.
Right. Yeah, and it's crazy. Like Ukraine is a perfect example. Like we sent them like what, $250 billion, and
Right.
it, we got nothing out of it.
You're right. Someone got something. I'd love an audit to be done on that money and see who was pocketing some of that in the back end.
Oh, I'm sure it all comes back to the Biden crime family in general.
Right.
I'm sure it all comes back to them. Like they played around with that with Burisma and all of that, and when Biden was a VP, and then when he became president, they just took it to a whole other level with Ukraine.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, that's got to be the greatest criminal enterprise ever run in the history of the US.
oh,
At
it's
the highest levels of our government running this criminal enterprise. It's mind-blowing and zero accountability with it.
yeah, and straight in your face, right? Like right in your face. They're not trying to hide it. It's just right there. Let alone all of the other corruption and all the other money that's going around into the system, going out everywhere else. That's just blatantly right in front of our face, and you can tell that we're not getting anything for it. And Ukraine doesn't seem like they got a whole lot of it either. Like when you look at all that money,
No, I always say it was just funding Zelensky's lifestyle. He
right?
was just living his high lux lifestyle off of our money, essentially.
I agree. So when it comes to unseating Cronin, it's a tough challenge because when you're running for elections, when you're running, you have to get name recognition. You have to do all of these things to really get a presence in elections.
Right.
And so, what what do you feel that you're doing that is working? Because you got 70,000 followers over a year on X, which is phenomenal. Eh, what are you how are you building this mojo that's just flowing right now to be able to unseat a big name like Cronin?
Yeah, I mean that's the hardest issue is getting that name recognition because most people they go to the first problem is the primary elections and most people don't vote in them. And the
Mhm.
people that do go vote, they see, oh, this is the name I recognize. I'm just gonna vote for this person. They have an R next to their name, they got my vote.
Right.
So that's really hard to work against, especially with someone like Cornyn who's been in so long. He's got deep pockets, tons of cash on hand, and he's just pouring millions of dollars right now into advertising. But the luckily we saw with these last elections, especially with Trump, is social media has played a huge role in this. So people that had no name recognition before, if they get out there on X and Instagram, TikTok, all these different platforms, especially the podcast, it really helps. So that's what I've been focusing on, just trying to put my message out there, answering actual questions, which is another huge issue, is most of these people won't give you a direct answer when you ask them a question. So I'm always just trying to give you a direct answer. I'm not trying to play the circular game where you don't get anything from it. And yeah, I'm just trying to go a lot to the more rural areas that are underrepresented and trying to get them to support because ultimately they're some of the biggest supporters and base you could attract because they feel underrepresented, undervalued constantly. And they just are looking for someone that will actually go in there and do what they're supposed to do.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's one of my biggest challenges with elections in general. I would really love to get rid of parties. I I'm really not fond of everybody just associating with a party. That's how you end up with people like Mitt Romney, Cronin
Right.
also,
Yeah.
is that you just vote because of name recognition and they're in your party, and you don't really look into how they made decisions. And Americans, to be honest, don't really have a whole lot of time to do that.
Right.
And so there's a lot of corruption that runs in politics because of that.
Yeah, and these parties essentially handpick who they want to run. We
Mhm,
saw that with this last presidential election.
mhm.
Nobody voted for Kamala Harris, but then she became the party's nominee for president. It's crazy.
Yeah, no one wanted Kamala. Even most of the Democrats around, citizens were like, "Why? I'll
Yeah,
take my chances with Joe.
the
I'll take
most
that."
disliked vice president in history. They sidelined her the whole time, but then, oh, she's the greatest thing ever. We need to vote for her. It's crazy.
It's nuts.
I
Yeah,
I I
and it's
wanna
funny.
address a comment I see here from Chris about the Patriot Act. Yes, I would love to repeal the Patriot Act. It went way out of control. The fact that they've used it to spy on American citizens routinely is a huge issue. We should not be spied on at all. I'm against the surveillance state. I can't stand even being a police officer in California. I could tell you about the vast networks of camera systems that are everywhere. We are surveilled constantly, and that's not what America is supposed to be. If anything, we should be surveilling the government and knowing what they're doing, not the other way around.
Absolutely, absolutely, and but he beat me to the punch because that is for sure one of my questions because it's up for renewal, and we're gonna have to make that decision soon, and you would be part of that, and help move that needle to where we can hopefully repeal it, but it's hard in government. Once you pass it like right away and get it done, to repeal it
Yeah.
is very difficult.
It's extremely difficult, but that's where it goes. We got to just start electing people across the board. And that's the big thing too. Like, yeah, I may be in Texas, but my vote represents America as a whole.
Mhm.
That single vote could change everything.
Yep.
So that's why it's extremely important for people to get involved, whatever state you're in. Especially look at the grassroots candidates, because those are some of the best candidates you could vote for. But again, they don't have the name recognition, they don't have the cash, but most of them are doing it for the right reason. They have the values we want to see in there, but they just need the support from the people.
I agree. Yeah, it's hard because I think podcasts are probably the biggest way right now to get your name out there, or even just doing lives on other social media platforms in some way.
Right.
Because how else can you can't trust mainstream media to get a chance to get on TV.
Yeah. Because they just handpick who they're going to put on too. They try to say they're fair. We're going to vet all these candidates, but they don't.
Nope,
You'll see
never.
the same two names over and over again, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, one of the questions I had for you on decision making, like on policy, and this one's going to be a little bit vague because I wanted to see uh, what you would come up with instead of what I would dig up. And so,
All right.
out of all policies that Trump has, what is one that you are against?
Oh man, one of the big ones right now, because it's such a gray area, is sending in the National Guard to these cities. Because I am fundamentally opposed to ever seeing a national police force. That is something we never want to see. And by doing this, that's what we're essentially creating is a
Mhm,
federalized police force to go in. And I get why he wants to do it. He's saying, hey, these governors and mayors are failing to protect their citizens. But at the same time, the people voted for these people and
mhm,
you get what you voted for.
yep,
And it could go very bad if let's say one of these like Antifa members shoots at the National Guard and our National Guard kills an American citizen on American soil. Terrible.
oh,
I mean, who knows what that would cause? So that's one area I'm just like, ooh, that's a very fine line you're walking right now.
mhm,
And my other big issue is with the Qatar agreement recently, that
oh yeah,
executive order with saying, hey, any attack on Qatar is going to be taken as an attack on America. It's like, well, time out. Qatar is an Islamic state at the end of the day. And part of Islam is they'll enter temporary alliances, peace deals. But at the end of the day, they're all about promoting Islam. They want to see the entire world ruled by an Islamic state under Sharia. So it's like you can't trust nations like this at the end of the day. And to say that that's an attack on America, I think that's just flat out wrong.
100%. And you know both of those because yeah, I struggle with this whole thing too. What because is Trump going to do bad with it? I can't say that he for sure will, but we set a wrong precedent for every president following. That
Exactly.
this can be normal, and we gotta be careful with that, and Americans seem to forget that a lot, that, "Hey, he's on my team, that's okay. It's okay, it's my
Right.
team." But it's like, "Well, wait a minute. What if Joe Biden 2.0 comes in after? Then it's not your team, now you're gonna be against it, but it's the same action."
Yeah, imagine COVID over again with Biden. He's like, "Oh, I could just deploy the National Guard to start enforcing these mandates."
Right.
I mean, it's a terrible precedent to set.
Yeah. I I really struggle with it, and then with Qatar, me, it's, can we just mind our own business? I
Exactly. I mean, you ran on America first. Like, just focus on America.
Mhm.
Focus on rebuilding what we've lost and stay out of all these other international conflicts. And unless they're a direct threat to us, then handle it. But
Right.
until then, just, I mean, you're never going to correct the Middle East. We've seen it. You cannot kill an ideology.
Nope.
It didn't work in Iraq, didn't work in Afghanistan, didn't work in Libya when they went in and helped overthrow Gaddafi. So
Mhm.
it's like just stay out of these things. Let them work out their own issues.
Yeah, I agree. Um, when it comes down to like this entire thing with the government shutdown and where we're at, what what are things that you would like to see come to the table? Because it seems like both sides are just posturing. There's really
Right.
nothing going on. How would you try to position yourself if you were elected and in a government shutdown to try to stop this posturing and bring everybody back to the table to get this done?
It's such a hard thing now because if we go back 50 years, Democrats and Republicans, they both had the good of America in mind. They had different ways of getting there, but at the end of the day, they could still sit down and talk to each other and say, "Hey, we disagree, but let's see what we could agree on and get this done." Now
Mhm.
it's just like, Republicans could have the best idea in the world that benefits all of America. But since a Republican's name's attached to it, they're just going to vote no
Yep.
and shut it down. So it has to get back to just having open dialogue and discourse again and saying, hey, we need to focus on the good of America. What's going to help the greatest population in America as a whole? And let's just get these things done. Let's
Mhm.
stop this infighting for no reason. You're just hurting the American people at the end of the day because you're not hurting yourselves because you're still getting paid, which is another thing. If the government shuts down, these members of Congress and Senate, they shouldn't be getting a paycheck.
Yeah. Right.
What other job can you just shut down and say, well, I'm gonna still get paid?
Right. Well, and they get paid. It all of the other important people that actually do some sort of job within government that keep things going, they're not getting paid. The
Right.
military is at threat of not getting paid. Like
Right.
Congress should be the last ones paid.
Exactly.
Uh, when it comes down to this whole thing, it's a mess, and unfortunately, we put ourselves here. And I'm curious on what your perspective is with this. I really believe that we got into this predicament because Americans are not engaged in politics to make informed votes, and so either they don't vote because we see record low voter participation, and then we see just you only vote by name.
Right.
What do you think? What is that what you feel, or how else? How did we get here?
Yeah, I mean, knowledge is everything. And I'm a big proponent of wherever I go speak, I'm like, do not listen to whoever's speaking. Yes, listen to what they have to say, but go vet it yourself. I mean, you have so many resources now at your disposal to go in and actually vet these positions. Read these bills yourself. That is another thing is when these bills get passed, these 1,000-page bills, there's so much garbage in them that people have no idea. They just hear the name of it and the one thing they want, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Let's vote for it." But
Right.
it's like there's so much just trash in these things that should never have been in it in the first place. But no one's reading them. No one's calling their congressman and saying, "Hey, why is this in there? Get this out." But it ultimately falls on these members of Congress too. They need to go out and speak to their people and tell them what they're actually voting on.
Mhm.
Don't
Yeah.
give me a one-liner of the one thing you like that's in it and sell everybody on it when it's a bunch of garbage.
Right. Well, and I've heard it from freedom for us for all. It's in the chat, but he said it. It's like I can't remember who said it that he keeps quoting, but they're like, you just read the title of the bill, and it's exactly the opposite of what the title of the bill says.
Right.
And I 100% agree with that because Patriot Act is a perfect example, right? There's nothing patriotic about it at all.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
mean, why can't we just go to single page bills that everybody could read, everybody could understand? And I mean, that's the whole other issue is most of these people are all attorneys and they want to use all this legalese. So people, most people can't sit down and read this and understand it unless
Mm-mm.
you have a background in law and could sit and read it and say, okay, I get what it's saying. Most people just are blind to it.
Right.
And I think it's deliberate because they're like, "Oh, these people don't know what we're going to end up voting for at the end of the day, so we're just gonna pass it."
Well, let's be honest, they don't even know what's in it.
Right.
Right?
Most of them don't read it themselves. They have a
Correct.
staffer that tells them like, "Yeah, we got what we wanted in, so it's good to go."
Right. Oh, we got our one paragraph or two paragraphs in there. Just vote yes. It doesn't matter. Like
Right.
it's insane. Well, let's come back to the election a little bit, because we have the primaries coming up in the spring. I've already got multiple people in my comments. I think we all need to rally behind one person and support them. I I strongly disagree with that, especially in the primary time. Like that is when you gotta be able to put your best up there, get them out in front of people, interview them, get them out, and then let people choose on who continues after that. Uh,
Right.
how do you feel with the primaries and that pressure from people saying that you need to back this person or you don't need to be running against them?
I definitely understand the fear because the fear is always, "Hey, we're gonna end up with Cornyn again," and nobody wants that. So when it comes down to it, I think Cornyn is obviously so far down now, and we got people like Wesley Hunt and Ken Paxton running and myself. It's like, "Hey, let's just get these people out there. Let's have a debate. Let's let the people see, because at the end of the day, that's what America's about. We should be encouraging people to run. We should
Right.
see a multitude of viewpoints and see who best aligns with the constituents. But when it comes down to it, like let's say I was going to split votes from Ken Paxton. Let's just say in this scenario, I'm right there with Ken Paxton. I'm trailing him a little bit and Cornyn's right there. Well, of course, I'm going to do the right thing. I'm a patriot. I do not want to see Cornyn in there. I'm going to support whoever is going to get him out of office.
Mhm.
So that's where we need to do a better job too, because people can't stay in if they're going to hurt the ultimate cause.
Sure. Well, and that's what the political system tries to put on, is put you into where you choose one of two parties or one of two people, right? And so it's the way the system is kind of built today, even though it's not the way our founding fathers intended it. Um, and as we talked before, I'm much more of a libertarian. I did vote for Trump in 2024. First time I voted red or blue in my life for a president. But I do think put 50 people on the stage for a primary, then let
Right.
everybody decide on who moves forward because you don't have to get 51% at that point. You,
Right.
you just got to get the most votes, and that's generally just going to be more of just who you actually resonated with. And I think that is
Exactly.
the most logical way to go about this instead of pulling people out and being like the Democrats and only putting up Joe Biden until you realize he can't even talk on a stage.
Right. Yeah, people need options. It's just give the people options and let them make the decision themselves. It's I just can't stand when we just see an R or a D next to the name and say, "Oh, that's a good choice." Well, it may not be a good choice.
Correct.
You know, even though they claim to be part of your party, they may not align with anything your party stands for.
Right.
And
Exactly.
that's the whole other issue I get back to, like, hey, I may have my opinions and beliefs on certain subjects and issues, but at the end of the day, I'm not there to vote for my personal beliefs and opinions. I'm there
Mhm.
to represent the constituents. So if they feel strongly about one way, I have to go and vote that way. I'm not there to vote for myself and what I believe in.
I applaud that. That's what a lot of people forget in politics is you're actually voting to represent the people, not with your opinions and where you
Right.
stand. Like you're actually supposed to make decisions based upon your constituents and your interactions with them, not your
Exactly.
personal opinion and thought on things. And so that's great. Like I said backstage earlier, as I applaud with how young you are and running, and your first time running, and you're going for the big leagues. You're going into the Senate. How did does
Yeah,
that
why
seem
not go for the
challenging?
top? Oh, it's extremely challenging, but I've always liked the challenge, and I always rely strongly on my faith. I'm like, hey, if God has His hand in it, anything can happen.
Yeah, I,
And I encourage more people. I think more people should run, especially I want to see more of the working class, more veterans, former law enforcement, people that see how these policies actually affect people, start running for office. Because a lot of these, like I said, a lot of them are just attorneys. They went to law school, they worked for a firm, and they've set their sights on office. That's all they want to do, be an elected official. And it's like, well, why do we want that? Why don't we
right.
want someone that's worked for a living, it's been affected by policies, and says, this isn't working. I want to change it.
Yeah, and it. It's crazy 'cause I end up having so many conversations with people and they just don't understand it. They understand corruption exists in government and all of those things, but they still just don't grasp how what it takes to get some of these bills done. Like the big beautiful bill, I'm very against it. I really struggle with a lot of the stuff that's in it. And so it just needed to go. We were sold
Right.
one bill and was blasted all over social media and all over mainstream media that you would get no tax on tips, you would get no tax on your car loan. And then as soon as it gets to the Senate, we have caps all of a sudden and an expiration date associated to it. And
Right.
none of that got publicized. None of it. Until after the fact, and people were like, I was calling it out because I read the bill and like, this is disgusting. This is gross. Would you have
Right.
voted
And then
for the big beautiful bill?
no, I think it was terrible. It added like what did it add? Trillions to our national debt at the end of the
Uh-huh.
day. And then the other thing that was very disheartening is people that were actually standing up and doing the right thing and saying, "Hey, this is not a good bill." Then they attacked him nonstop.
Yep.
It's like, well, why are you attacking him? He's just telling his beliefs. It's not a good bill. Like Thomas Massey, they
Mhm.
went so hard after him for just saying, "No, this is wrong. We need to do better."
Mhm.
So it's like you can't attack these people just because they're standing up for what they believe in.
Right. And the one thing is if you want to add money to the deficit in the country, you can always count on Massey being a no. Like he's got to have
Right.
something that he can see an immediate return. It's like, okay, this is worth it. But if you're just adding it to deficit and there's almost no return that you're going to see that come back and cut the deficit in the long run somehow, he's going to be an absolute no. So anybody that gets mad over that is insane because they just don't understand the game and they don't understand him in general.
Right. And I don't think enough people understand how bad this national debt is. They just see it as a number like, well, whatever, we just keep printing money and we're fine. Well, it's
Right.
like, no, I mean, China owns a large portion of our debt. And what an easy way to destabilize us is call that debt. Say we
Yeah.
want to be paid back. And what a mess that would be.
It would be horrible. I don't think they would ever do it because that would decimate them because of all of the exports and stuff that we bring in. But the part that's crazy about it is it's possible, and no one wants to admit
Right.
it's possible.
Right.
It's crazy, and national debt is one of my biggest things, and that's where I'm a big fan of Thomas Massey and what he pushes around it is we don't have enough people to really push. Hey, we're all the citizens in this country are held to a budget. Why is our government not? Why can't
Right.
our government figure this out? They give
Uh,
me a credit score. Like
yeah.
what's going on with them?
Yeah, I mean, government at all levels, local, state, federal, they are all run so inefficiently. And I always said, because working for a police department for a city, and I was on our association, so we're always going for contract negotiations and stuff like that. And I look at how these cities operate. I'm like, this is terrible. It's so inefficient. Like, if this was a private company, you would fail. You
Mhm.
would be bankrupt right now. But because you're the government, it's like, oh, it makes sense. And it doesn't. We need to start operating the federal government like a private business.
Yes.
And people like, especially these government worker protections, it's like these people just show up, don't do their job, and they still get a paycheck and walk away at the end of the day. And it's
Right.
like if you're working for any other company, you'd be fired.
Yeah.
Same thing
I
with this government shutdown. You would all be fired because you couldn't do your job.
it you would be fired and most companies would go under because you just can't recover. Like our government can just print money and it bails them out every time and their friends. Their friends get bailed out all the time.
Right. And
But
that's another one of my huge issues is these lobbyists. It's I mean, they control all these politicians.
yes.
And the fact that most of our elected officials won't just come out, that's one thing I'll tell you. If I was to be elected, every time I was approached, I would put it out right away. Hey, this lobbyist approached me, this PAC approached me. This is what they're asking for because the people should know. The
Yeah.
people should know who's trying to buy them off and what they want.
Yeah. I think that's fantastic. I actually haven't heard anybody take that type of stance of being like, "No, I'm gonna be transparent. Like, I will tell you everything that everybody that comes to me and tries to buy me off. You guys will know about it all."
Right. Because transparency just creates accountability. If you
Mhm.
give people the information, they could then hold you accountable. But when
Mhm.
you don't have that information, how am I supposed to hold you accountable?
Exactly. That's one of my favorite words is accountability, and I feel like it's lost in today's world. We don't really have it in society anymore. Everybody makes excuses. No one wants to just own up to something. It's always somebody else's fault or they're the victim. We
Right.
can't have accountability anymore for some reason.
Yeah, and how refreshing would it be if even if the president just came out and said, "You know what? I made a mistake." That would take the level from here way down because
Mhm.
they just want to see someone that's humble and say, "Yeah, I made a mistake. I wasn't right about this position." But
Facts.
no one wants to do it. They just double down and triple down and say, "Nope, this is correct." It's like, "Oh, no, it wasn't."
Right. Well, and that's one of my criticisms of Trump, even though I voted for him in 2024. It's like, dude, will you just admit Operation Warp Speed probably wasn't a good idea? Can please just even if you just say probably was not a good idea, I'll take that as a win. Just please. But
Right.
no, he refuses, and it's his ego. It's who he is, and so you would never catch Trump being like, "I messed up." That just doesn't happen.
Right. I mean, it doesn't happen with most of our politicians,
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I
especially from the left. They say some crazy things. You're like, Just come out and say, yeah, I probably shouldn't have said that." And it would do a lot of good for you if you would do it.
Yeah, it it's just crazy. Let's jump into a couple other things here. So, like, in one of where was it? It was one of the shows that you were talking about civil asset forfeiture. Like,
Right.
I we don't hear that from Republicans or Democrats anymore running. It doesn't exist. It's a libertarian talking point for sure. Is we want to get rid of it because we don't want anybody coming in and taking our stuff. And
Right.
so,
Without
where
due
did you get
process.
that stance from, and where do you feel on that?
So being a police officer, I saw it all the time, especially in drug cases is where you mostly saw it. Was, you arrested someone on a sales case and whoever took it over, usually the DEA would come in a lot, take over these cases. And what they do is they'll seize everything, your
Mhm,
home, your cars, everything, and say, you need to prove to us that these weren't bought with illegal funds. And it's like, whoa, 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 that should not be happening. There's a thing called due process. It needs
mhm,
to go through the courts. If the courts decide that you need to provide the evidence that these were bought illegally, then you could take them. But you can't just start taking people's stuff and say, "Hey, it's on you now. Prove that it wasn't." And I think a lot of people don't even realize what that is because they haven't been through the legal system. They've never had anything taken from them. But I mean, we've seen it especially with Cornyn, who voted on the Safer Communities Act with red flag laws. Hey, we don't need anything other than an allegation. We're going to come in and take your guns. It's like, whoa, haven't been convicted of anything. Just because
right.
someone alleged I did something, you can't just come in and take my guns from me.
No,
So that's a big thing. People, and again, it sets precedent. If you start doing this over and over again, they're just going to take it a step further and a step
mhm,
further. And again, it just strips away our freedoms and our rights.
yeah, it's one of the biggest things that I struggle with, like, you said on the podcast, it's theft by the government, and it
Right.
100% is, and it's no different than taxation and all of the stuff that we have to deal with around that. We the government is just slowly taking our rights every chance they can get, and it starts with an inch and they'll take a mile.
Right.
And we really need people like you in Congress and in any elected position in city councils, school boards, all the stuff locally to help fight this system because it is happening across the board. What would you say to more people that feel this pain but don't know what to do?
You said it perfectly. Is people just need to get involved. They need to start voting. They need to start going out and asking questions. And like I said, I encourage everybody to run for office. School boards, city councils, state office, the federal offices, but we need to get people out there and start running for office because if we don't, we're just going to end up with the same mess. We're just going to vote it's just a different name in the same suit at the end of the day, which we've been voting for years. And that's how we're going to just lose more and more rights. And people forget that our government was established by the consent of the people to protect our God given rights, not to
Yep,
take them away.
yep.
And we have lost that. I mean, the government thinks they are in control of everything and could do what they want when they want. And it's like, no, that's not what our government was designed to be. Our
Right.
government was designed to be is you and me keep the government in check, not the other way around.
Yes. That's one of my favorite memes is when the government is left unchecked, it really will do bad things. And that's where we got to start paying more attention. It's difficult though. Like I do have I do understand Americans struggle with trying to be engaged in politics. It's so toxic and it's so difficult because there's such a divide in this country. And we can't really get past that because we allow one topic to divide why I can't talk with you, why I can't unite with you for 1,000 other topics just because of this one topic.
Right.
America used to be able to compromise, and we don't do that anymore. And how do you think that you will be able to help bring that back to the office?
I think it gets back to at the end of the day, as Americans, we probably agree on 90% of the issues. It's
Mhm.
that small 10% that we want to focus on. And I think it's delivered by the government. They want us to focus on it because they're like, hey, these idiots are focusing on this issue that's really doesn't matter at the end of the day. And we're going to do all this other stuff behind the scenes. And they're going to have no idea what's going on.
Right.
So it's just like we need to find that common ground again and go, look, we're all Americans at the end of the day. Let's unite as Americans and put our people first. And these small issues, yeah, we could work them out at the end of the day, but there's big issues we need to address. I mean, it's kind of funny to think about how the Democrats back in the day were the anti-government, wanted nothing to do with the government, the hippies, and now it's like flipped the other way. Now it's the Republicans that are like off the grid, the more of the hippie kind of like I'm living off my land. I don't want the government involved. It's
Mhm.
like we need to unite on that and say we need to just get back to protecting our freedoms. I
Mhm.
mean, who doesn't want to have freedom?
Well, clearly some Americans, because they are
Yeah,
begging for the government to take away some for some reason.
I know, and it's like I don't get it. I guess it comes down to it's common sense, and
Mhm.
that's what kind of like blows my mind sometimes. Is like I can't even understand these views because they don't make sense at all.
No. Eh, and that's what's so weird about it is I like we ultimately we want all everybody just to be free, live on their own, not be bothered by the government, not to be bothered by the neighbors, just to
Right,
live their life. And very similar to the way it was probably in the 50s and 60s was probably one of the peaks at the time because you could live off a single income. You didn't have to have both
right.
parents working. And ever since they took that like they were able to tax that extra income every day, every paycheck, it's been super downhill.
Oh yeah, I mean, and it's completely deliberate. How can we make more money? Oh, we'll
Mhm,
make things more expensive. Make the wife have to go back to work, not raise their kids. They'll be totally dependent on the government. The government will run their education. It's all deliberate. They just want control, and it's like both sides should wake up and see that's not right.
yep,
We need to just I was telling you before the show started, let's just have freedom. Don't infringe on my rights. I won't infringe on yours.
mhm,
And that's where we've taken it too far. It's like the LGBT movement. It's like do what you want. We have no issues with you, but don't start trying to force it on kids.
mhm,
Don't like bring kids into it. But you have the right as an adult. Do whatever you want. Just don't force it on anyone else. And
mhm,
that goes for any issue.
right,
Believe what you want. Do what you want. Just don't let it affect somebody else.
right. Yeah, I've always explained it as, your rights end where my rights begin, right? And
Right.
so, as long as we're always meeting at that, it doesn't matter, right? It but we're in a world today that we no longer live by sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. We need to bring that back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
People rely too much on feelings now, and it's just like you got to take feelings out of it. You
yeah.
have to.
I got a Texas question for you, and it kind of ties into the nation. Like Texas is the one state in our union that has its own power grid. It
Right,
overall, the power grid is not secure, not reliable. I'm surprised we don't have more outages than what we currently do, to be very honest.
right.
What what things would you like to see or would you put up in the Senate to try to correct this and protect the nation from ransomware attacks on a power grid or any other digital kind of hackers trying to take it out?
Yeah, so it's funny. I was actually talking to he was a former Army intelligence officer that big into cybersecurity. He ended up being working with the NSA and everything, and he told me straight up that our grids are basically third world level grids.
Mhm,
He said it's terrible. He's like they've put bills out there to try to upgrade these things and secure them, and they've just gone nowhere. And it's like that's mind blowing to me because you talk about a way to destabilize our country and cause chaos is that's all they have to do is go after these grids. So
right,
that is one thing. It's a national security issue. We have to shore up these grids, upgrade them, and secure them. And it also goes into like being energy independent again. We can't rely on these foreign adversaries of ours to get our oil from. We
no,
have plenty of oil. It's just like, hey, cut the red tape, cut all these regulations, and let the free market operate like a free market. Everybody gets into, oh, greenhouse emissions, this and that. Well, if you feel strongly about that, don't support that company. Don't purchase from them.
mhm,
That's how the free market works. You let the people work it out. But when the government gets involved and you shut all these things down, you don't let us operate how we should, then we end up in the mess we're in. So
mhm,
I'm a big proponent, cut the red tape, let these companies start operating how they should. One, it would create thousands of more jobs for Americans. And then when it comes to the energy grids, yeah, we need to upgrade these things like immediately. They need to be upgraded and they need to be protected because the intelligence is already out there. It's never going to be a boots on the ground war here. They're going to attack our grid, and that's what's going to shut us down. And we're going to see more deaths from that than anything else.
right. Yeah, and Tim Pool always calls it fifth generation warfare. It's going to be
Right.
coming. We're not going to be going at each other old school bayonets on the ends of our guns or anything like that. You're going to have drones. You're going to have cyber attacks. You're going to have people on the other side of the world attacking us, and most Americans won't even know it until something big happens, like the grid goes down,
Right.
and it is scary. All right, we got a few minutes left. One of the things that I did want to make sure we cover, and I don't want to go over too much with you. I want to respect your time, but I see the Republicans are set up for a very tough road if 2026 does not go in their favor. How do you
Right.
feel about 2026?
It's very scary because we talk about there's a lot of great things President Trump has done with executive orders, but if they're not put into legislation, we're going to be back in the same mess we were in 4 years ago.
Mhm,
So 2026 is extremely important. And I always go back to essentially what we have right now is just one big uniparty. Our GOP is full of cowards. They're not doing their job. They're not representing their constituents. And that's why we're not getting this stuff passed. It's not the Democrats. We have control of the House and Senate, and we're not getting anything done.
right,
So that ultimately falls on the Republicans. So it's like vote these people out, start electing good candidates in 26 and get them in so we could pass this stuff. Because when 28 comes around, if we get a Democrat back in the presidency and we have a Democrat controlled House again, we're right back to the same mess with Biden.
right.
And probably worse, honestly, because the names that are being thrown out there right now, it's just mind blowing. It's like I don't know how they can't get back to finding a true Democrat,
Mhm,
finding someone that is a true representation of what the Democrat Party was, because that's how they would win. But
mhm,
no, I mean, they keep trying to find the craziest people they can put up there.
right. Yeah, my theory on this is if if the House or the Senate flips and goes to the Democrats in 2026, I think 2028 goes to the Democrats because JD Vance has nothing to run on at that point.
Right,
And you're really putting up like another Kamala scenario, but it's in red. That's all it is. And
right,
it is a slippery slope. Like I said, I'm more of a libertarian in a lot of ways, and but when it comes to looking at this, we can't have a Democrat in the House in control of the federal government right now. They need to come back to reality, and then we can start having some conversations with them and figuring out how we move forward. Right now, the parties are so like they push this very divisive rhetoric on both sides so extreme, but they work together behind the scenes. We're
Right.
never going to do anything. We're never going to get anything done for American people. It's always going to benefit them and their friends.
Exactly. It's a
Yeah, and
complete mess.
with with the whole thing, do you like with Trump in 2028, do you think Trump is serious about running a third term in 2028?
No, I think he just loves, loves stirring up the pot and making these people lose their minds. But I, I mean, we all know it's unconstitutional. He can't do it, but he still likes to, he stoke the fire.
Right.
But I don't think there's any validity to it. I think he just likes to mess with people.
I I 100% agree. And my examples for that is look at every time Signalgate came up for the 2 or 3 instances that we had it. Trump all of a sudden was talking about a third term just to shut down the media. They stopped talking about it instantly. And then the third time it came up, he's like, okay, I got to be serious. Put out the 2028 merch.
Right, exactly.
And that is where I think he is amazing. I think it's hilarious on how he does that. He's one of the best trolls on the internet.
Oh yeah.
Um, in my opinion, I think it's refreshing to have someone with that type of feel instead of really just follow the standard. I don't like the polished super business professional politician anymore. It's worn out to me.
Right, and most people don't like that. Most people just wanna see a real person giving real answers and just being who they are. I cannot stand when you talk to some of these people, and it's like, you are so out of touch with everything. You have
Mhm.
no idea what your people want, and you're gonna go up there, and you can't even give an answer. You're gonna sit and talk in circles, and
Right.
it's like, "Dude, just give us an answer."
I I was swearing at the TV the other night when I can't remember who was talking, and I'm like, just shut up. Like you're not giving me anything. Like just
Right?
why are you even there? Like you're a waste of space. With the final minutes here, when we're talking about what is your biggest like what do you want your biggest achievement to be in your first term in the Senate?
My biggest thing is I want to address this issue of Islam. I don't know exactly how we go about it. I've talked to so many subject matter experts and analysts on this, and they all have differing views, but it's coming down to a point where we need to do something. We can't just sit back and let it continue to happen. More and more Muslims are running for office, and I always like to say there's a term in Islam called taqiyya, which is deception. They're allowed to deceive and lie in the furtherance of Islam. So I always say these people that swear an oath to our Constitution on a Quran, it's just a flat out lie. And if we continue to let them in office, what they want an Islamic state ruled by Sharia at the end of the day.
Mhm,
And they play the slow game. They start at local school boards, city councils, and they work their way up. And we're seeing more and more of that. So something needs to be done or we're going to lose America. So that's one huge issue that I want to work on. The other is we need to repeal all gun legislation that infringes on our Second Amendment rights. It's ridiculous that it's even been passed at the federal level. But it's like the Second Amendment is very clear. It's for us as the people to be able to fight back against a tyrannical government. It has nothing to do with, can't stand when the Democrats say, oh, it's for hunting. No, it's not. It's so we, the people, can fight back against the government when that time comes. And we need to keep guns in Americans' hands, repeal all this legislation that restricts or limits it in any way. And I think that's one thing I'm very passionate about because we've seen throughout history what happens to disarmed populations.
Oh yeah. Every single one of them. When they turned in their guns, it wasn't long after. Like, look at UK, right? You get
Right.
arrested for memes now.
It, yeah. And that's the perfect example. We do not ever want to end up like the UK. The
No.
UK arrests more people for social media posts than Russia, who we always want to say is our biggest enemy. It's like, well, pretty soon the UK is going to be our greatest enemy because it's going to be totally run by Islamists and they have full nuclear capabilities. And what is going to happen at that point?
Yeah. And that's I didn't I to be very honest, I never thought about that. I know they have infiltrated, they've welcomed in Islam and all of that stuff. But what happens when they start running that country? Right? They start getting into
Right.
elected positions, into parliament, because that's what they call it over there. And what happens then? And yeah, they have these powers like we have.
Right. And I mean, the
Scary.
sad thing is we're slowly starting to see it here in Dearborn, Michigan. There was
Mhm,
recently an arrest, you could look it up, where it was basically a Sharia compliant arrest over a social media post. Because, any local city could pass their own ordinances, municipal codes, and
mhm.
they had one regulating essentially free speech, and they arrested somebody on it for speaking out against Islam.
That's
So it's like,
horrible. Everybody in that area should be losing their minds and screaming in the streets at their politicians for allowing that to happen. And one, they should also look on them at themselves. They made that mistake of electing people that put that in place. But
right.
it
I mean,
it's
look at New
scary.
York too. Look at New York City,
Oh yeah,
what they're
John
about to end
Bobby
up
or
with.
whatever his name is, however you say it.
Yeah, I mean, a straight up socialist, and I mean, again, it falls on the people who are voting for these people, but it's like I don't know how we've lost our way so much to think that. The funniest thing is whenever you talk to someone that's fled a communist or socialist country, they're the most pro-American people
Oh
because
yeah,
they're like, you have no idea what these type of governments do to the people. Like you're
mhm,
crazy for thinking you want this here.
right. Yeah, and I know many people that have immigrated here legally and spent all of the money to do so and all of the pain and traveling and ridiculous amount of time to do that, and they're like, "It's still worth it. Like, this country is worth it. I don't wanna go back
Right.
there." And
Yeah.
these people are trying to bring some of that culture here, which is very dangerous, very dangerous.
Yeah, well, that's what I always say about Islam too. It's like, well, I think there's around 57 Islamic states right now. You
Mhm,
have 57 countries you could go to that you could adhere to Sharia law, practice what you want, but you're not doing that. You're coming
mhm.
to the West because there's a deliberate and calculated move because they ultimately want to control the entire world.
Yep. Yeah, we talked about this backstage a little bit, and so I'm curious, how can we stop a religion in the United States when we have freedom of religion in our First Amendment in the Constitution.
Right. So I've gone down the entire rabbit hole. I've read the Quran, the Hadith, the Sunnah, just to see because I want to educate myself. Where does all this stuff come from? And when you read this stuff and when you listen to these imams that are openly talking about what their goal is, you realize that there is religious components to it. Yes. And should they be able to practice that? Sure. Practice your faith here. You have that right. But at the end of the day, it's a total political ideology. It's a totalitarian form of government that they want to implement. And where I go back to is there's no First Amendment protection for an ideology that seeks to overthrow the Constitution and US government.
Right.
So we really have to look at that and say, yes, there is a religious component, but it's a heavily a political ideology at the end of the day. And I've said, well, let's just say they could practice their faith, but this political component, that is essentially a terrorist organization, a terrorist movement. Because what
Mhm.
do they want to do? They want to overthrow our constitution and government, and that ban that aspect of it. And they won't adhere to it because it goes hand in hand. But at least it gives them an option. It's like, hey, practice your faith, but you can't do any of this other stuff.
Right.
And if you do, you're going to get arrested for it.
Mhm.
And if they don't like it, then go to one of your 57 Islamic nations and live there.
It's I'm laughing because it's so funny that everybody will come here and complain about how horrible this country is, and it's like, why are you still here? Like,
Right.
you can go to plenty of these other states that have all this stuff you want. You want all that free healthcare? Go to Canada. Let us know how it goes.
Right. Well, it's just
We're
like
not
with all
far.
these ICE raids when all the protests started and they're waving their own country's flag. It's like, well, if you love that country so much, go back to it.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. The
it's
riots
like
in LA were just
if they were
Mexican flags
if they were
everywhere.
protesting with American flags saying we love this country, we want to go back, more people would have a heart for them and say, okay, you know what? They want to be here for the right reason. But when you're destroying cities and waving your own country's flag, it's like, well, why don't we send you back?
Right. I'll fund it. I'm okay with taxpayer money doing that. We'll send you back. It's
Right.
hard for you to go. Fine. We'll put you on some military planes and send you back. That's okay.
Right.
Well, we're at an hour here, but what let's hear from you on it. What do you see as your biggest challenge over these next 6 months? We're at about 6 months. Yeah, 6 months until the primaries. What do you see as your biggest challenge that you got to overcome?
The biggest challenge is the name recognition, which I am gaining on that. And the other thing is the financials. It's these career guys, they have tons of cash, which they get their message all across the state, TV ads, social media ads. And it's hard to compete with that because
Mhm.
it costs a ton of money to run these elections. And again, it's something that our founding fathers never intended it to be. They thought
No.
people were just one, they weren't paid positions, it was paid per diem,
Mhm.
which I would love to see. I always say take money out of politics and preaching and let's see who actually wants to do it for the right reasons.
Right.
Is most people that are in there right now, they will not run.
Mm-mm.
They're doing it solely to benefit themselves at the end of the day. And I hate to see that. And that's why I think more people like myself need to run, non-career politicians, people that want to serve for the right reasons. I've made it very clear, huge proponent of term limits. If I were to be elected, I only want to serve 2 terms. And what we're supposed to do, which every other organization does, is you build up the next person to take your place. You mentor them, guide them, and say, hey, I'm getting out. This is your time to step up. But we need to start doing that. We need to start cultivating a culture of empowering the next generation to take over and start cleaning up this mess.
100%, man. To donate to Alex, I created a QR code down there. It'll take you to his campaign site, duncanforsenate.com. You can just scan that QR code. You can pull up his site. You can make donates. You can donate there. As he mentioned, we hate money in politics, but it's just part of the game now. We
Right.
have to be able to fund it. And for good guys like him, we definitely support. Show your support. Scan that QR code and spread the word and get that out there. Any final words, Alex, that you would like to say?
No, just thank you for having me on. And I always say, look, people in Texas, I did not come to Texas to change anything. I just want to protect the state because I truly believe it's the last conservative stronghold and we desperately need to protect it. If Texas falls, America falls with it. And I'm just trying to run to represent you and just restore our freedoms and get back to the America that the world sees America as being because we've lost our way for far too long. And I just truly want to go in there and serve the people and get this country right on the back on the right track.
I applaud it, man. I welcome it, and I said earlier that we probably won't agree on everything, but everything we touched on, I didn't get to all of my notes in an hour. I thought we were going to get a lot more, so we might have to do a round two of this and touch on
Yeah,
some
let
more.
me know.
You and I hit you hit on every point that I would expect, and I would give the similar answer. And so I applaud it, man. I really like what
Thank
you're
you.
doing. Best definitely running younger. I want to see younger people in Congress. I
Yeah.
it doesn't need to be a retirement home, but that's what we're doing. Is everybody in Congress? You had Feinstein die in office. You have these other people that are just going into office and having strokes on TV, and it's like we got to get out of this. Like clearly, they're not making decisions. Somebody else is.
Right.
Let's start running this country properly.
Exactly.
Well, thanks for joining in, man. We'll do a round two. Hang on for a second. We'll talk backstage. And everybody, you guys have a good night. Oh, actually, forgot my last note on there that I missed. It game show tomorrow night. Freedom for Us for All on X. We have the game show on Friday nights. Are You Smarter Than a Politician? It will be at 8 p.m. Eastern. I am on with Burn T and one other guy. Dang it, I forgot his name. But you will want to tune in tomorrow, and it will be a great show. So don't forget about tuning in tomorrow night at 8 p.m.